I, frankly speaking, I don't believe that if government and big companies, working together, it will be able to solve the problems. I always suspect them. So my proposition is that if they are going to work for the good of the society, they should invite the group of CSO to also participate in this kind of scheme. As you know, there is now the private public committee, Pacharat, what do you call in English? I don't know. The Pacharat policy by this government, where they appoint the bunch of CEOs from all from big companies, and there's a group on modern agriculture headed by Kun Isara, the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, and also the boss of Midpon Group. And now they're proposing the private company, those big companies are proposing program to help smallholders increase their productivity and closing the inequality gap. But I challenge them that, okay, it's good that companies already have their projects working with farmers. That is good, to increase productivity. But I challenge them that if they're going to do a better job, they should invite the civil society, particularly NGOs, to involve in the project, and each of them, should chip in a lot of some amount of money, and creating some kind of independent organization to do this kind of development work. Yeah, that's the thing. On sufficiency economy, I think the king's concept is always the philosophy, and the philosophy that's the first thing. It's a good philosophy for way of living, but specifically the loyal initiated projects and all of the loyal projects, I think that objectives is not economic. Their objective is always social objectives, like persuading the hill tribes people not to grow opium, and then switching to high cash crop, as well as try to solve the problem of deforestation. So there's a lot of social objectives behind this loyal initiative project, and that's why it's difficult for other projects to follow the King's project. The King's project is very luxurious. Yes, plenty of good people, capable people from all kind of from bureaucrats, from government officer, and now young people, from business people, and they have from business sector, and they have a lot of money to use, and yet it takes them decades to accomplish those objectives. It's not that easy. It's not only the sufficiency economy. The sufficiency economy is only part of the objective of the program.
Con, could you possibly just speak to the tourism part?
Quickly on agro-tourism. I mentioned that we're selling rice to these schools. What we're also planning is to bring the school kids out to the farms so they can participate in the growing and harvesting of the rice that they will eventually eat back at school. That, to me, there's a natural link there. I also like to take the example of Japan. When we go to Japan, as we increasingly do as Thais, we find ourselves traveling not just to Tokyo, but we visit towns and villages and cities all over Japan, because they have retained their a level of uniqueness. As a result, I think, of the sort of the local culture that they've been able to retain. And I think that's part and parcel of what will come if we focus on so-called King's philosophy. We focus on introducing safe and healthy agriculture. What comes together with that actually is artisanal culture. As an example, I was going to mention the packaging of this. We try to keep everything authentic. The cloth is woven by the villagers in the same village. We help design the package for them, and then we hire them to stitch them, and they earn a substantial additional income from this. So selling us the bags is equivalent to yet another 15% on top of the value of the rice that they grow. But as a result of this, they've now developed a real business out of designing and using cloth to make design clothing, both to supply to Bangkok and also to sell within the villages themselves. And as these side businesses mushroom as a result of the kind of agriculture they do, it becomes a more interesting place to visit, and you can imagine at a national level, this begins to be interesting from a tourism perspective. So I think there is a direct link between the kind of agriculture that I envisaged, premium agriculture, and the growth of tourism, as per your question.
Okay, we're getting a bit late, so we take a last question there.
All right, so thank you very much for talking about these very critical topics. I just would like to ask a question about the role of central banks in the agriculture, because it seems that finance is one of the main issues. We said we have difficulties to invest in R&D. The farmers have difficulties to generate incomes. If we don't have money, we cannot attract people to accomplish certain tasks. So I was wondering, what is the government body that doesn't have any money issue is the central banks. And they have the power to buy assets, to quantitative easing. So why can they not direct the money towards goals that are maybe more important, like protecting the environment, ensuring food security, protecting what our children are eating? So I would like to ask you, what is the role that central banks can play in addressing the issues that we talked about tonight?
Short answer.
As to the question of banks, let me have a go. The role of central bank is limited, but we do have a very effective agricultural bank that is owned by the state, the BAAC, and virtually every single farmer in Thailand is a customer of the BAAC. So from that perspective, its reach is comprehensive and with very good access. I mean, there are physical branches in every tambon around the country. So they do a good job. Part of the problem is what they lend, what the farmers themselves use the borrowed money to do. So they've been building up that debt level, but not very productive. And I think what the government can do better is directing the loans to productive use as opposed to general consumption, which has unfortunately been the case in the past.
Okay.
I'm old enough to tell you this story. In the past, Central Bank of Thailand used to involve in packing credit for agricultural export, and then also forcing the commercial bank to deposit 5% of their total deposit with the BAAC, Bank for Agriculture, in order to re-lend to the farmers. And now those since we have plenty of cheap credit, those kind of instruments are no longer need anymore. And in fact, central bank should, because in those days, central bankers very care, they really concerned about inequality, particularly the level of development in agricultural sector. I'm talking about previous governor Dr. Bui Eun Pakor. He really concerned about inequality issues, but now it's no longer necessary. Now the role of, let's say, financing bond issuance for let's say green kind of issue, green forest or environmental issues, it should be the role of the Ministry of Finance, and yet we didn't have that kind of instrument to have that kind of instrument to promote environmental issues or green issues. You need a law, yet we don't have that kind of law at the moment.
Okay, last question, very brief, Nick.
My question is basically, I'm Nick Nostitz. My question is, I wondered this discussion is quite a technocratic discussion, and the topic of politics and the political turmoil hasn't been touched upon, which does affect the farming sector quite a bit. You talked about being again in government, but you are, I think, aware that the majority of the farming sectors in the north and the northeast despises your party, Kun Korn. How are you going to come to terms with politics in Thailand? Because I think only when politics come to terms, then also farming sectors can be somehow repaired.
What was the question?
How are you going to come to terms with the political problems here in this country? Because without the political problems coming to terms, how will the farming sector being repaired again?
How will they? Basically, some of these the questions that we've been addressing, farming sector issues, are reflections of the political problems in the country. So, going forward, how will they be addressed?
I wouldn't define it as political problem. I would define it as problem of policy, appropriate agricultural policy. It doesn't matter which government really, as long as we have a proper vision as to where we want to take the agricultural sector to, and I think the issues are, have been very well raised by two gentlemen on my side here. There are things that needs to be done. We all perhaps have slightly different visions about what we need to do to get there. My own vision is to make Thailand a source of premium foods, and I think we can achieve that. We should aim for that, and I think that's a realistic vision for us to achieve, regardless of who's.
The question is how you're going to do it when large parts of the farming sectors in the north and northeast despise the party you were a member of and you were a finance minister of.
Well, so you say, but so what? If it's not my party, let it be some other party. As I said, it's the real question is having the right policy. Doesn't matter which party is in power.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you very much to our panelists first, and thank you all for coming this evening. It's been a really fascinating discussion. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.